Happy to be joined now on our phone line with Josh Jacobs. He's a site expert at Redbird Rants, does a lot of great work there. I want to make sure and check that out. He's delving out content all the time, and he's a host of Dylan the Cards podcast, and definitely a follow that you want to have on X. That's at Josh Jaco98, and make sure and check him out. Doing a lot of great work covering the Cardinals. So, Josh, thanks so much for joining me this morning. How's it going?
Good, Rusty. It's always good to chat with you. So excited to talk about all things Cardinals today.
I love it. So I haven't really talked about with you before, but how long have you been a Cardinals fan, and where did you get your Cardinals fandom from?
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, that dates back to my dad, and just as soon as I can remember, I've always followed the Cardinals. I was prime. My fandom began prime early 2000s, so I got to grow up watching Pujols and Molina and Wainwright, which probably makes some people listening feel a little bit old that that's my earliest memories of the time. But I've always been a huge follower and fan of the Cardinals, and then over the last few years, it's been awesome to just continue to dive into that world deeper, so I'll have a little bit more access to the team and to be able to cover it. And I just love providing as much helpful coverage as possible to other fans. And yeah, I mean, I'm a baseball fan at heart, but obviously I have a strong affinity toward the Cardinals.
So what's your favorite Cardinal memory? That's a tough question, but I'm assuming something to do with the World Series. What's your favorite memory?
Yeah, it's hard not to put the David Freese Game 6 as, like, the top. But I think maybe my most random fun memory is, I think it was 2010. Colby Rasmus was kind of his, like, breakout year. He was probably one of my favorite players growing up. And there's this game, I don't know if people remember it, but he should have popped out to third base, but Pablo Sandoval dropped it in foul territory. And I remember thinking to myself, it was the bottom of the 10th inning, Rasmus is going deep here in the next pitch. It should be in the inning, gets another fastball right down the middle, slugs it for a walk-off home run. And it's just like one of those moments when, like, you call a home run, it's your favorite player, crowd goes crazy, walk-off home run, and I'll always remember thinking in my head, like, he's going to go deep on this next pitch. They cannot. He's going to take advantage of this mistake by Sandoval, and he did.
That's pretty cool. A little blast from the past there with Colby Rasmus. All right, appreciate that. Let's get into a little bit of last night. Great. Listen to this. Cardinals win 2 in a row. The last time they did that, June 27th through the 29th. It's been a month ago since they've won back-to-back games, Josh.
Oof.
But look, they get the win. Miles Michaelis, ERA, under 5. 4.94 now. We'll take it. 3-0 win for the Cardinals. But what stood out to you last night, and did you enjoy the little fireworks from Wilson Contreras?
Of course. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with Wilson Contreras there, and he's been red hot as of late. When his bat's going, it really helps raise the level of play of this team. His intensity, his fire, I think it rubs off on the pitching staff, and of course it rubs off on the offense. And I think for the last month or so, the bullpen's been really good, but to your point, they haven't won back-to-back games for a while because you're consistently getting pretty awful starting pitching really since the beginning of May, but it's really ramped up in the month of July, or sorry, the end of May, but then in the month of July, it's really gone downhill. And then for the most part, the lineup's kind of gone cold, and there really hasn't been a guy in the middle of the lineup who can carry things. But as of late, Wilson Contreras has done that. Yvonne Herrera's back. Alec Burleson's been consistent. Brendan Donovan's an all-star. When you've got those 4 guys producing, it makes things a lot easier for this club. And so that's the reason they're 3 games above 500 on the season, even for how bad things feel right now. It's the reason they're only a game and a half out of the wild card. And they're in one of the most interesting and weird situations you could ever be in for this Cardinals team is that, yeah, they play good baseball when they're firing on all cylinders. And you can make an argument this team can make a run for the postseason. But when you look at all the context and what they're trying to build long term right now, and you see the prolonged slumps they go through, and you see the flaws they have, if you're the front office right now, you have to look at this team and say, yes, they have the ability to fire on all cylinders and compete with the Padres and the Phillies and teams like that. But is that a formula that you want to bank on? Is that something you think is going to happen when you get to October? And that's where I have my doubts. And so games last night are fun. It reminds me that I don't think this team is all that far away, but is 2025 the year? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, look, Josh, that's the big conundrum that the front office is going to have to decide, and going to have to decide it pretty quick. But, look, I think obviously what changed maybe the direction is what happened right after the All-Star break, being swept by the Diamondbacks. So, before the Padres series, they were 1-5, coming out of the break. But I guess that's the thing. They've won 2 games in a row. Okay, are we going to do this again? Are we going to jump back on the wagon? I mean, that's the question. So, I mean, the Cardinals shouldn't, right? I mean, they can't. They've got to start thinking about next year, right? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, that's where I'm at with it. It's so fun to watch it, and I get it. There's people, honestly, it splits the fan base, I think. I'll post something on X or post a story, and half the comments will be like, the team should have sold 2 years ago and torn it to the studs. And the other half will be, oh, they're only a game and a half out. How on earth could they sell? You buy. And it's that weird place they're in right now. And I think ultimately the best thing for this organization long-term is the cash in on the assets they have available to them at the deadline, relief pitchers that'll be of interest to plenty of teams. Listen on offers to all players, and doesn't mean you should move guys, but you shouldn't be. There's really no player on this roster right now that is for sure untradeable and untouchable. They should be asking Chaim Bloom, what is it that you seek? What do you think this organization needs long term? And going after and targeting it. And I could see the argument that they could have a fun second half, but in all honesty, I would much rather see that with the young talent and allowing young bullpen pitchers from Memphis to get an opportunity, going that direction, kind of like the Detroit Tigers did last year, rather than doing what they did last deadline, which is go after an Eric Betty, a Tommy Pham, patchwork it together, because I think there's probably a greater chance you get to the beginning of September and this team is out of it than that they're a strong wild card team looking to make a run in October.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I think that I've been saying this for a little while now, that the Cardinals should look to sell. And look, that was the message to begin the year: the runway, transition, and trying to get some of these young guys and figure out what they are. Right? To me, you got to stick with the plan. You can't waver back and forth. Stick with the plan and let the young guys go and see what you have for the future. But you mentioned something else just a minute ago about no one is technically untouchable. Well, Katie Wu just had a piece out of The Athletic. If you're not subscribed, go subscribe. She does great work there. And she just her latest piece from last night talking about some of the trade candidates for the Cardinals. And she mentions Brendan Donovan, a guy that's drawn interest apparently from the Dodgers and the Yankees in trade discussions. So, look, we all like Donnie, Josh, and I don't think anybody wants him to go. But, look, if we're going to have that mindset to think about the future, he's 28 years old. How much longer is he going to be a part of this team and of this core? So, to me, he's going to get a very good return. This is probably the highest he's ever going to be as far as a value. So, if you can get somebody that is controllable, young, established major leaguer, I'm all for it. But what stance do you have on Donnie?
Yeah, I'm with you in the terms of you're going to find very few people who follow the Cardinals or cover the Cardinals who have a bigger affinity for Brendan Donovan than I do. I just think he's the consummate pro, a great ball player. He's clearly a leader in this clubhouse, and something that you can't quantify on paper. If you get a trade value machine, you can't put leadership into it. It's something that you just can't say enough about a guy like Brendan Donovan. We had him on our podcast not that long ago. He's just a great dude. I think he represents Cardinal baseball in the best way. But with all that being said, yes, no one is untouchable. And so if a team like the Dodgers does come in and overwhelm the Cardinals with an offer where Bloom and Mozeliak are talking and they're like, this is what we want for Brendan Donovan, and the Dodgers say, okay, we'll give you 10, 15, 20% more than what you think he's worth, it's a conversation you have to have because of those things you talked about. He is 28 years old. That's not old, but it's not young in baseball either. 2 years of club control remaining, and the Cardinals made a mistake not extending him a few years ago. They could have gotten him at a much cheaper value for a long-term deal, and instead they've waited it out. Now his market value is going up and up and up. I don't see a world where there's going to be an offer that comes through that makes me want to move Brendan Donovan. But again, it doesn't mean you don't pick up the phone and you have those conversations and see if the Dodgers offer you a young, controllable starting pitcher and a prospect that has some high upside. Because if you're the Dodgers, you can afford to take big swings like that add to Brendan Donovan to ensure another World Series championship. And if you're a team like the Cardinals, you need as many assets for the future as possible. So to me, Brendan Donovan is the guy you build with. I know that his best days are probably right now and maybe the next few years, and it's probably a decline. I'm not as worried about him being a guy that falls off in his 30s. And I think he's the kind of guy that can bridge the eras where he could be the leader for the guys like J.J. Weatherholt, Liam Doyle, future Cardinal prospects to come through to help build the Cardinal way. Because that's one of the things that's made the Cardinals so successful over the decades is having guys that have done it before and won before. Even though Brendan Donovan's not a World Series player, he definitely embodies all of those things in a player. I like having that influence in that clubhouse moving forward. But at the same time, if the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Astros come in with an offer you can't refuse, I see why the Cardinals could consider it.
Yeah, for sure. Have to at least consider it. All right, 3 guys, Ryan Helsley, Phil Maton, Steven Matz, all on expiring deals in the bullpen. Do all 3 get traded?
That's $1 million question, and I think if the Cardinals lost both of these games to the Padres, I would say confidently yes. Now I don't know what the front office is thinking here. Again, if I were in Mo's shoes right now, and especially if I were talking to Chaim Bloom, my philosophy would be to trade those 3 guys. Ryan Helsley seems pretty confident he's getting traded. I think it's 2 days ago now. He told reporters that he believed there's a 90% chance that he was going to be traded at the deadline. So I do think they'd move at least one of those guys, even if they're in it. I think for them to take all 3 would, in their eyes, be waving the white flag. I'm just not sure if they're going to do that yet. I believe moving all 3 makes a ton of sense. So I would say Helsley seems like a guy who's for sure going to go. Maton and Matz to be determined.
So looking at, we talked about runway and some of these young guys, obviously still waiting for Gorman to get back, as well. Walker just coming back. But as you look at maybe even forecasting to next year a little bit, I think no doubt Ivan Herrera is going to be here. He has established himself as your top hitter probably on the team. Again, you have some other guys that you like. Alec Burleson's having another nice year. Wynn's still showing some good things. You've seen some flashes from guys like Victor Scott and even some young pitchers. Who are some guys that have stood out to you? Some guys, look, you think, okay, these guys need to be part of my core next year.
Yeah, I think you started off with Ivan Herrera there as the guy where out of all the position players the Cardinals have right now, especially from an offensive production standpoint, he's clearly the highest level of them all. I don't know what it is this morning, but as of yesterday, he was like 12th in all of baseball weighted run graded plus. So like that measures out basically ballpark factors, everything. And he's a top 15 hitter in baseball this year when he's healthy. And over the last few years, he's been about top 25 hitter. It's just he hasn't been healthy enough. So, okay, can you keep him healthy? Does remove catching duties from him, DHing him, or potentially an outfield move long-term, keep him in the lineup? I think that's the direction they're moving. Obviously, Brendan Donovan's been awesome this year, but is he part of the core long-term? We'll see what the Cardinals think at this deadline in the offseason. I think outside of Ivan Herrera, Alec Burleson's probably the guy who's impressed me the most this year. But even then, I just look at all these guys right now, and you can make an argument to me for any of them that the Cardinals could move on from one of them or 2 of them to make room for guys coming up and to get future value. Because outside of Ivan Herrera, I don't know. I love Mason Wynn, but is he a superstar? Is he even a star long-term? I don't know. And with those kind of guys, I don't think you can hold them tight-fisted. And so I do think Ivan Herrera, Mason Wynn, Victor Scott, Alec Burleson are here to stay. Obviously, J.J. Weatherholt's coming, but what do they do with Lars Nootbaar and Jordan Walker? Walker's looked great as of late, but prior to the last week and a half, he was one of the worst hitters in all of baseball this year. So you got to see more runway with these guys. But this offseason, the Cardinals are going to have to pick and choose. They're going to have to move on from some of those guys. If you look at the Cardinals' top 15 prospects, 8 of them need added to the 40-man roster this offseason.
Yeah.
So there is a roster crunch coming, and it's going to be on Bloom to figure out which are the guys he wants to invest in and who is he going to turn into assets, whether it's current big league talent that's for the pitching staff, whether it's future prospects, but they can't hold them again like they did this year going into next year.
And that's kind of, you led me to my next question because I want to talk about a couple of these guys and going to have to make decisions. And you kind of alluded to it. I think probably, maybe you don't make the decision now at the trade deadline on some of these, but maybe that's an off-season move. But look, when you have areas of surplus, I think Cardinals, it seems like for so long, they got these prospects. We've got to hold on to them. Got to figure out what they are. Sometimes they wait too long. Sometimes, obviously, we know, obviously, they've didn't wait long enough and gave guys away. But, for example, in the outfield, Nootbaar, do you keep him? Alec Burleson, maybe you pick one of those. Walker, I mean, do you get rid of one of those guys? You got a surplus in the infield. You have, obviously, Thomas Ajayce around. Obviously, you talk about, if Donnie can stay, Weatherholt is coming. He's coming. Maybe I'm hoping that he'll get a shot here at the end of the year, September call-up or whatever. But he's coming. Cesar Pareto, he's a good player down in the minor leagues and other guys as well. So, look, you have some surplus in different areas. Can you figure out and maybe trade, get some assets, and then fill in some of the holes elsewhere? But who are some guys that, for example, Nootbaar, would you hang on to him? Would you trade him? What would you do for some of these decisions?
Yeah, I'll preface by saying ultimately with almost all of these guys, it depends on what offers are coming in, because I think I would probably be shopping Lars Nootbaar, looking to move him. Again, I'm not someone who's anti-Lars Nootbaar. I think he's a quality big leaguer, and I would not be surprised at all to see his best days ahead of him with another organization. Not even because it's the Cardinals' fault. I just think there's untapped potential there that I think he's going to lean into at some point. But that's why I think other organizations would love to acquire a Lars Nootbaar. And so I think you shop someone like that to go get, whether it's cost-controlled starting pitching, whether it's some prospects for the future, and then you turn toward Alec Burleson, Jordan Walker, Victor Scott, Donovan, guys like that for your outfield. But if organizations are coming and making even better offers than Alec Burleson, then maybe you move him and you keep Nootbaar instead. So I think it really depends on what the offers are that around the industry. But Nootbaar, I think specifically, is the guy that I've been circling as he probably is worth more to you in a trade and acquiring other assets than he is to the Cardinals at this point, because Brendan Donovan, Lars Nootbaar, or Alec Burleson, J.J. Weatherholt can fill in the production that you lose from Lars Nootbaar, and then Nootbaar can gain you something you don't already have. So I think Nootbaar is a guy that could easily be moved on from. Nolan Gorman's name continues to pop up as hey, they're listening on him. And so even though he has the big-time power that they lack, I don't know if they have enough time to keep waiting on it to surface. So I think he's another guy they may choose to move on from. And then outside of that, it's just really dealer's choice on Chaim Bloom's part.
How much of an influence do you think he's going to have? Do you think he's going to have a big say, Chaim Bloom, as far as those decisions and working closely with Mo?
Yeah, I think this has been one of the weirdest. The Cardinals do a lot of things that frustrate people, and one of the ones that I continue to not understand is the messaging and the communication. And because at the end of the day, they've talked about that Bloom is working hand in hand with Mozeliak. So it's not like Bloom's in some corner where Mo walks into his office sometimes and is like, hey, do you want to have an input this time? And then other times I don't consult with you. They work together. But I think the thing that will frustrate people, and I understand it, is at the end of the day, it is Mo's call. But Mo has talked about that he wants to set up Bloom for success for the future. And so I think if you see them selling assets at the deadline, Bloom has full reign within that. If they're going and buying people, they're not going to be trading a prospect that Bloom's in love with. It's a complicated, weird situation that you do not see in sports, where you have a transition of leadership like this, which makes it so hard to understand and comprehend all the voices in the room. But I do think Bloom has a major impact on what happens. It's just at the end of the day, it is up to Mo to either execute what Bloom wants, to do 90% of what he wants, or to go in the other direction. And only time will tell on if he honors what Bloom is wanting. And at the end of the day, I also wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals pin most things on Mozeliak at this deadline, even if it's something Bloom wanted, because it's one of the advantages to having him right now. The DeWitt family's got to be thinking about how long-term they need to rebuild trust and excitement at the fan base. And so if there's anything unpopular that happens, I don't think they want to say, well, that was Chaim's idea. I think they like the idea of Mo taking the brunt of the criticism this deadline, which, again, may be warranted. I don't know. But until we see what moves they make, it's hard to know how much Bloom's influence is there. I just know it's there to a significant extent. I just don't know if he's leading the charge or if he's more giving input on things.
Last thing, and I'll let you go, Josh. Again, Josh Jacobs, site expert at Redbird Rants, Dylan the Cards podcast. It seems like every trade deadline, there's always kind of a mystery trade. No one had a beat on. No one saw this coming. Will we see that again this year, whether it be throughout baseball or even with the St. Louis Cardinals? Maybe is there a name that you would throw out there to say, look, he's not on anybody's radar per se, but maybe he's a guy that could get traded as well. So I guess my biggest question or overarching question here, Josh, is this going to be kind of a bland, very predictable type of trade deadline, or is there going to be some chaos mixed in?
Yeah, I think around the industry, I bet we're going to see some deals that we did not expect to happen, like those quote-unquote baseball trades where there's contenders making deals with one another, giving a surplus in one area for something of another. I would, if I had to bet on the Cardinals, they would be selling the relief pitchers that they have and getting prospects for the future. So nothing crazy, but I would not be shocked, and I don't think anyone should be shocked if they see Brendan Donovan, Lars Nootbaar, Alec Burleson, a player like that in a deal that gets them controllable pitching for the future. If there's a team that really needs a bat at this deadline and has a surplus of pitching to make the move, I think the Cardinals are going to be open to a move like that. Now, do I think it's likely? No, but I think they're saying, hey, come make your best offer, and if you move us and give us something that we want to move on from Gorman or Nootbaar or Donovan, they're going to be open to that. So would I bet on it? No, but I don't think anyone should be shocked if they start to see something like where Tommy Edmonds' name started popping out of nowhere at last year's deadline, and within 24 hours, he's a Dodger. Would that shock me I think it would shock me with Donovan, but it shouldn't be like there's no way in the world that could happen. We got to prepare our minds for that potentially. But like a guy like Nootbaar or Gorman, I think fans shouldn't be shocked at all if one of those guys is moved to the deadline.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff, Josh. Appreciate the time this morning. Again, make sure and follow him on X, JoshJaco98. And again, putting out some good work at Redbird Rants and host of Dylan the Cards podcast. So, Josh, appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Rusty.